Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation.
Hi, Josh. It's Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad. Sorry for being so late.
Oh, not a problem. I'm glad to be able to do this with you.
Yeah, thanks for your time.
Oh, awesome. Well, again, thank you very much for taking the time to be able to do this, to talk about everything that's going on right now. I mean, it seems like it's a really exciting time to be able to promote a new album that's coming out next month and everything that comes with it.
Yes, it is an extremely exciting time. It's hard to know what to do with all of the, you definitely want to strike while the iron is hot, so to speak. And, all of this opportunity finding us at this time, it's been a lot of spinning plates and making sure that we're taking advantage of as much of it as possible.
So, with that in mind, how did the album process begin for this album?
It depends on how far back you want to consider the foundational work that was being laid for the album. I would say some of the earliest creative material that made its way on the album was put together, some riffs are as old as 6 years. So it's been a slow, arduous, organic process of just kind of the album needing to become what it needed to be at its own pace. And that took a long time. That took, I would say, about 6 to 7 years of refining, disposing of inferior compositions and whatnot. But yeah, it was a long, brutal process, especially as a three-piece. There isn't a lot of work to delegate there, so it's a lot of pressure on such a small group of people. So yeah, it was just one step at a time. It's kind of hard to, really put that in a nice clean package. Like listening back to the album, thinking about how it came to be at all is kind of hard to even entertain at this point.
Yeah, and, just considering the quality of songwriting that is on this album, everything from the production to the songwriting to the musicianship, the fact that all three of you were able to show off this kind of brutality on this album and just have it feel so precise and really stands out from the crowd. It's a great album for that, and it's a great example of sometimes, waiting and, refining the songs the best that they can be over a length of time really does pay off in the end.
It does. It's a big sacrifice, no doubt, especially if it doesn't, especially if your band doesn't get noticed, which happens. A lot of great bands just don't get their time of day. So yeah, if it's like you want to spend 10 years making something that's real to you, that's a lot of investment for something that's not a sure bet to pay off. But, it's something that approaching our music that way, little did we know, was our was ultimately our strength, was that the only thing that mattered to us was it being what it needed to be. And we knew that we weren't interested in just doing another fun local band or whatever. It was, I wanted to make something that felt like could sit shoulder to shoulder with the albums that inspired me. And we pursued that relentlessly until we were confident that it could measure up. And we feel pretty good about that at this point.
Yeah, and from a brand new fan's perspective like myself, I absolutely love what's going on with this. And, just like from start to finish, all 10 tracks that are on here, I love the diversity that's going on there. I just love the sheer brutality that's going on with it. Again, like I said, between all three of you and just like writing these songs to make them out the way that they were supposed to be and, over 6 years into what it is now, it totally paid off. And it's great to see the reception that I've been seeing online for this album, and it's absolutely deserving of it.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a lot of passion and love for the genre went into the making of this album. There's no doubt about that. And it's very validating to hear other people that are equally passionate about extreme metal seeing that devotion from us. I think that's the most flattering compliment I can receive or I can, oversee on the internet is someone saying something along the lines our music being honest, you know, like moreover than it being technically dazzling or this or that. It's like the tone I want to ring louder than everything else is just one of sincerity, and you know that this is music made to create an experience for someone and not to just tout our own personal abilities as musicians.
Yeah, and I absolutely hear that throughout the album too, and I appreciate it so much for that. I mean, you know, it's not just about like the fretboard workouts and you know the top
Yeah,
speed that you can play gravity blast the entire time. You know, it's just about like writing sheer honest music, and you can hear that
yeah,
throughout there. I mean, you can hear it through the lyrics, you can hear it through the song progressions. I mean, everything in there. It just like you said, and just like others have said before me. I mean, it you hear that honesty in this music, and it's great to
thank
hear
you.
that.
That means a lot. Thank you. I mean, that's really the most, you know, my primary goal is beyond everything else. It's just, I want it to sound like what it is. And it's the, you know, the devoted work of someone who really loves this music.
And I gotta imagine with that, I mean, with the album coming out September 6th, I mean, it's gotta be a great feeling to finally get this album out there for the rest of the world to hear.
Well, it's cathartic, to say the least. Yeah, it's so good to finally have it out there and to finally have something that I can just stand behind with and offer no apologies for. You know what I mean? Like this project has come together so well, and that there isn't a single aspect of this album, down to the art and the production. I mean, I was backseat driving through every step of the process of this album's completion, and I can look through every nook and cranny of what this album has to offer and stand behind it. You know what I mean? And I that's a very powerful feeling because in a sense, it really does make you immune from critique. You know, if you're guided by that isolated purpose of the only thing that really matters is realizing the thing that you know that it needs to be, right? If that's always your goal, if you always keep that in mind, that it doesn't, you know, it's not what the fans want or prospective fans want or career shaping or whatever. It's just about taking the thing that represents the closest thing to an honest distillation of your artistic goals in your mind, and you just pursue that as aggressively, honestly as possible without compromise. And if you can do that, I think you will inevitably stumble upon something that's special and unique. Because if we're honest about ourselves, we're too much of a collection of unique experiences that if we speak about them honestly, they will be unique to you. You just need to not rely so much on what has been said before you. And if you think that if you achieve that and you feel like you made that album and you checked all those boxes and all the T's were crossed and all the I's were dotted, and you know that album is everything it needs to be, then everything else is just icing on the cake. You know what I mean? It's all just a nice occurrence if people also enjoy it, but the steering purpose is that it just is what it needs to be, you know?
Yeah, and that's the way it has to be too. I mean, even though of course there's been a couple of releases before this, I mean, the fact that you know you're on Century Media now and you want to be able to show off that impact, and there's no better way to be able to do that than to be completely honest with that. I mean, honest with yourself,
Yeah,
honest with the fans, show
yeah,
what you are, and of course in the future things might change as well too. I mean, there might
yeah.
be shifts in the tones or the styles or the tuning or whatever
That's
the
part of
case
the
is.
honesty,
Yeah,
yeah.
and that's part of the honesty.
Mm-hmm.
You said it right before me.
Yeah. And that's part of just the growth, you know? I mean, it is what it is. I mean, you always want to toe this line between, you want to ensure that you're serving the identity of the band, because the band ultimately is ideally something larger than yourself and your personal interests. It's something bigger than that. It's something that's has a narrative that's larger than just that of your own life. So, sorry, I get down rabbit holes and I lose my train of thought. But it's, yeah, I don't know. Let's get us back on track
Yeah.
here. But,
Oh, not a problem at all. But no, it's just again, it's just like it's so refreshing to hear that honesty in the band, and it's just you can hear that throughout all 10 tracks, and I'm not sure how much went into like the track order of the album, but I really appreciate how all 10 tracks are flowed together on this. I mean, it feels like all the
thank
songs are
you.
the perfect length, just under 45 minutes, and just like it feels like a great length for a death metal album, and just like the way that you have it going. I mean, of course, they're showing off the parting of the neck, which people were familiar with, and then going
Yeah.
all the way to the end. I mean, it's a great listening experience.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we put a lot of thought into the track listing as well. I mean, it's, like I said, no stone left unturned. I mean, as a true enthusiast of extreme metal, I know better than anyone how valuable every aspect of the experience is. Um, and I think bands, if bands are struggling to get to that next level of their identity, I urge them to start thinking about how their music speaks to people in more ways than just the superficial ways that we think of making a song. Like, I think a track order can make or break a fucking album.
Oh, absolutely.
100%. 100%. Like, you could have an incredible album, and if it's organized, shit, even if the time in between tracks are too lagging or inorganic, you know what I mean? You want that hit. Like, one of my favorite transitions on that album is track one into Crowned, the little vocal tail at the end of Parting of a Neck, and just, hurls you right into that crushing first riff of Crown. Shit like that then it's no longer two songs. It's a seamless experience. You know what I mean? You're not just queuing up one song after another. You're riding a wave at that point, and it transforms the album from being just a mere collection of tracks to being an experience, a story.
Yeah, and I was going to bring up that transition as well because it's just a perfect segue into it and just like showing off where the band is now in 2019. And it's just
Yeah,
it's so great to hear that too. And as it goes on, it's just like it feels like a definitive death metal album in 2019, and that's what we really need right now.
I agree. That's what I wanted. That's absolutely what I wanted. So I'm very happy to hear you say that.
Oh, absolutely. And with that, I mean, of course, track order being so important, and of course, the quality songs and honesty. Another amazing aspect I love about this album is the artwork on here too. I mean, you instantly know what you're getting with this album when you look at the artwork, and it just looks amazing. How did that come together?
I was very honored. I actually reached out to Joe Patagno, the artist of the artwork, who's also mainly known for his work with Motorhead. He designed the original Motorhead logo, and did pretty much all of their artwork. He was very close to Lemmy, and for me, I knew that there wasn't anyone's work that would better speak to the spirit of the metal that I was trying to channel, with Joe's work being so closely tied with, the stuff that was going on in the late 90s with Angel Corpse and all the Brazil bands like Christian and Abhorrence and stuff like that. It was just this fire and this energy and it was about the spirit of heavy music over musical ambition. And that musical ambition was a means to the end of elevating the voice of extreme metal. And Joe's work embodies that. I feel like at the apex of death metal's philosophical purity, you have Joe's visual work. So it's just kind of like, it was almost a little arrogant on my behalf to just hit him up, but I just cold messaged him like 3 years ago. This was before this intermedia shit and everything. And I was like, hey man, I don't even know if you're still working. He's like well in his 70s at this point. I was like, I don't even know if you're still working or painting, but I love your shit. Here's the deal. Here's my band. Here's some lyrics. He he provided me the honor with being very enthusiastic about some of the lyrical work that I shared with him. He was all about the project. So I actually had Joe secured for the project years before it happened. And when it came time to finally do it, the collaborative experience was amazing. I mean, I had the general vision for the image. I knew I wanted the head on its side. I knew I wanted the blade in the hand. And I knew I wanted the corners being your very typical, like, Patagno grandeur. But, the way he realized that was no exaggeration. When he sent me the completed artwork, I just full screened it on my iMac at home and just stared at it for like 45 fucking minutes. So it's truly a testament to how a good album cover can elevate the whole piece.
Oh yeah, I mean, when you have Joe's legendary work and the fact that you were able to secure him before, like, even knowing if there would be like a record label idea coming about,
Yeah.
or if it was just going to be like a DIY project. I mean, I love the fact that he was interested enough to do it, and I keep looking at the album cover myself and just like noticing all these little details that I might not have noticed on another glance, and it's just like, it's so authentic, and it really does match everything that's on the album, and it's great to see that collaboration and the fact that he is still doing all this work after all this time.
Yeah, it's just such an incredible way to tie us to something that's just deeply important to me. And I do think his work echoes this kind of like unchained, almost reckless ambition. You know what I mean? Like, Joe's painting is not the most refined work, and nor is Vitriol's music. You know what I mean? But it's huge, and it's devastating, and it's at times confusing, but there's always a gravity to it, and I think that the way that Joe's artwork was able to mirror what's happening sonically on the album is just a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, I mean, getting this whole package together, and now having the backing of such an amazing metal label like Century Media behind you, I mean, how does it feel to be on such a legendary label like Century Media?
It's surreal. We honestly never thought, with Vitriol sound being so extreme, I was surprised, honestly. I would say my primary emotion receiving the email from Century Media was just like, really? You've heard us, right? It's like, we're not fucking, we're not slinging your, European melodic metal riffs. It's like, but Philip over at Century Media Germany, he was the guy who sent us the initial email, and it was funny because there were a couple more underground labels too that were talking to us. And out of everyone, like, on its face, you would think Century Media might be, with it being the highest profile label, it might seem at odds with like the goals of a band like Vitriol. But he honestly did the by far the best job out of anyone representing a label to prove to us that not only did he understand what Vitriol was doing, but he loved what Vitriol was doing, and he fully backed it. And he wasn't trying to co-opt our success and turn it into what Century Media wanted it to be. He was like, I know what you're doing. I fucking love what you're doing, and let's do it together. And he's done such an incredible job of allowing us the freedom to make the album that we wanted to make, and that meant a lot, especially Century Media, and like wanting to go with some, more unorthodox production techniques that you might not find in like modern, technically driven death metal. So, Vitriol requires a lot of freedom in that way. We're not a band that's going to hand over a mix and be like, oh yeah, do whatever you want with the drums, just like, as long as the compositions are there, like, everything matters.
Yeah, and again, that brings it back to why I Another reason why I love the album so much is that production. I mean, rather than having it being the crispest, clearest, and really unauthentic album, I mean, it just does have like that primal sound to it. I mean, that's what really adds
Yeah.
the brutality to it. I mean, with all of you guys, I mean, you can hear all of you playing. I mean, it's raw enough. You can still know what's going on with it, and it really gives
Yeah.
you that overall sense of what Vitriol is all about.
Yeah, and I think it goes to show, like, it's almost like it's almost like steroids in baseball, man. Like, especially drum production techniques have gotten so unnaturally out of hand in metal that it's like younger kids don't even know what real fucking drums sound like, man. They don't, because, like, they've never heard an actual snare on a record. All they've heard is digital snare replacement, you know? Pop, 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 pop. Like, no shit, that snare sounds like you're in the room with it because it's a fucking sample. It's not a human being chasing it. So, you know, you put out an album with a dude that's actually fucking killing it, and either people are going to be like, oh, yo, there's a dude playing drums. I missed hearing that. Or people are going to be like, why is the snare sometimes quieter in parts? Because it's a fucking human being, man. Like, 'cause that's what a band sounds like, you fucking idiot. And if you don't like it, that's fine. God bless you. You know, like, you want that, just get hammered in the face of Superior drummer all day. I'll leave you to that. You know, but that's not what Vitriol's trying to do.
No, and again, it's that authenticity and that honest sound that's going on there. And there is nothing better to me than when an album is created by humans, playing their instruments, and there is little to zero manipulation going on in the mixing and the mastering and samples or anything like that, because I love hearing humans play. I mean, whether it's they can play 100% or, you know, there's like some quieter parts or some missed notes or whatever the case is, it's more natural to me.
Yeah. I was reading an interview with Colin Marston on his bass recording on Colored Sands, Gorgat's Colored Sands.
Oh, yes.
And he was saying how he tracked all of those songs in one sitting, like each song at a time, start to finish, because he wanted, some of those songs were so challenging and so long that he wanted to capture that exhausted nature of the songs as they go on. Like, he kind of wanted to represent that energy of him hanging on for dear life by the end of some of these songs. And I thought that was such a cool way of representing the task of that material in a sonic way for the listener. And it's really a humbling thing to do, too, because I think a lot of why bands, what makes these production techniques especially dishonest, isn't because I have a sneaking suspicion that what's driving these bands to, this is why I made the steroid comparison, kids aren't being driven to implement these techniques because I feel like they just objectively find it to sound better or be more artistically cathartic. I think they're doing it because they feel like they have to compete, right? If they do anything that's to a lesser degree of clarity, then they can't hang. They got to juice if everyone else is juicing. You know what I mean? So it's like they almost need bands to come out and say, hey, you want to fucking play the shit out of your guitar, but you don't want to fucking write everything you do in Guitar Pro. You don't gotta do that. You don't gotta play that game, dude. Like, you don't have to do that, you know? And if you want to, that's great. But that's not all that this shit has to offer. That's not all extreme metal has to offer you. That's not all ambitious playing has to offer you. For too long, I feel like death metal guitar playing has been in either in the two camps. Like, you're either a technical guitar player, a lifeless, soulless technical guitar player, or you're like a purist that turns their nose at technical ability because it's all about the fucking, you know, it's all about the vibe, it's all about the riff. And I don't understand how everyone's too stupid to realize that, like, we want both of those things. Like, everybody wants both of those things. Like, why do you have to choose? It doesn't make any sense. There's no good reason for it. But one does not negate the other.
Yeah, and
So
I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I love it when there is someone who can do all of these technical proficient things, but it still has some soul behind it too. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, there's nothing saying that you can't be technical and be able to write a soul-driven riff. I mean, I don't see
right.
why you can't do both.
Right, and that's the thing. Is like, when I was younger and developing Vitriol sounds, like the people that shared my interest in more of the heady, creatively ambitious music I liked, might not have the more knuckle dragging sensibilities to like a lot more just like ass beating riffs. You know what I mean? And it's like, for me, it was always important for Vitriol to never be above that. Vitriol never to be pretentious. Vitriol to always be just like a pure appreciation of hostility on every existential plane. And sometimes it's just like crushing you with a fucking breakdown. You know what I mean? And not caring. Like not everything has to be a triumph of your. It's all about the experience. Bottom line, it's all about the listener's experience. And sometimes the listener just demands to be crushed with some fucking stupid ass, mindless sledgehammer of a riff, especially if it's following something that forced your mind into a acrobatic place because like the riff is so dense and complex, and then hammering someone with something so easily digestible right afterward. It's kind of like waterboarding someone sonically, and it seems to work really well. It's just kind of this like hold them underwater with chaos and congestion, and then like bring them up for 20 seconds of air before pushing them back down again. That's kind of how we try to write music.
Yeah, and that's a great and scary comparison, but it totally works with that. And it's just I
Yeah,
hear so much of that throughout the album, and it's great to see that mindset in there too. I mean, when you are playing that something so technical and then you are able to breathe some life into it afterwards, I mean, it makes the brutal
yeah,
parts more brutal, and the more melodic parts more melodic and stuff like that. I mean, when you're able to shift things around and you aren't just like focusing on one style of riff, when you
right.
implement other parts, they stand out so much more because of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about the musical journey. I feel like for anyone should be about you develop your vocabulary. You develop your musical vocabulary, just like if you're learning as a child to communicate with other people. It's no different. You're developing that vocabulary, and it's usually forced, usually sound like your parents. It's very monkey see, monkey do. You wear your influences on your sleeve. And then as your mastery of that language grows, you then appreciate that the words are only as valuable as their order, that they don't mean anything disembodied from the intent. And I think you have a lot of musicians that lost that stage of their growth, that they forgot that all of these words that they're collecting and adding to their tool belt are only as good as the poetry you write with them. You can't just hand fist 20 $10 words into a fucking poem and call it poetry. And I think that's what a lot of people are trying to do with music, is they're saying, I've made myself familiar with this ambitious thing. Behold it as this spectacle in and of itself. And it's just cheap. And I don't think it keeps people's attention very, very long. And it's not very compelling stuff. But once you start learning that those techniques, those words can be used for a greater purpose, something bigger than the techniques in them of themselves, that in context of other things, you can tell a story. You can make people feel a certain way by playing really fast. You can make people feel really overwhelmed. You can create anxiety in other people by playing your guitar quickly. Like, what an amazing power that is. And once you understand that, like, that's what you're doing to the listener, and you're not just like saying, hey, look what I can do, then you just follow that rabbit hole as far as it can go. And you just want to that's what art is you're trying to share an experience with another person. And I think death metal could use a lot more of people approaching it artistically. That's what I think.
And That's what I'm really hoping happens with this album when it comes out September 6th through Central Media. I mean, the fact that this album is such an honest look at extreme metal, at death metal, and I really hope no matter if it's a band that's a few albums into the game or a guitarist that's like looking for a band and trying to find its sound, they come across this album and they see that there can be real authenticity of being yourself, knowing what to play, having that vocabulary, knowing how to structure songs, and like you said, like writing the right kind of poetry and really making it stand out.
Yeah, making an impact, not just jumping into the game to be a part of it. Like, really think about find something to say, you know, before you start saying things, make sure you have something to say. And that's like any advice I'd give to fucking anybody. Like, when people ask about, oh, what do you attribute to Vitriol's success? We knew exactly what we wanted to be. And I think that's, and being uncompromising in that, forcing the world basically to see your band for what you want it to be, and not what you think the world will just allow it to be, you know, the bare minimum to get you touring or to get you playing shows or to, you know what I mean, to get those endorsements or whatever lesser goals people should abandon, you know. But I think, yeah, if this album does anything to inspire people to value approaching extreme metal in a way that we did, it will be a life-validating accomplishment to be able to contribute in that way.
No, absolutely. So again, you know, well, like with the album coming out September 6th, and you know, just like building to it so long, getting this album out there, and absolutely worth all that time. What is going to be next for Vitriol?
You know, it's so much, and the things it's so hard to say because the opportunities that we're securing in the first stage of our career, to be honest, was like a year ago, I was daydreaming as being like 10 years down the road. You know what I mean? Like, the idea of doing a tour with Nile and Hate Eternal would have been like career-topping twilight of our career fantasies like 12 months ago. And the fact that we're doing our first European tour with those, it's like, well, I don't even know. My imagination is having a hard time even figuring out where we go from there. But that's a mountain we're very excited to climb. And right now, it's just one foot in front of the other. We're going to hit the tour really hard. We know we have something special with this album. But we're doing the European tour. We're coming home and doing a full U.S. tour. That's to be announced when we get home, and then back to Europe in early 2020. And music videos. We're doing a music video with a guy named Brendan McGowan on Monday for the track I Drown Nightly. He did music videos with Imperial Triumphant. He did the Code of the Slashers video for Cannibal Corpse. So yeah, we're just milking every spare moment, trying to make the most, trying to get this to reach as many people as possible.
And again, you know, it's just, that's such a great thing to see, like all these great things. I mean, three of the most brutal bands going together on tour in Europe, and you know, like all very different styles, but all seemingly fit together to make an incredible night if you make it out to those European shows, and you know, coming back here and doing touring. And the fact that one of my favorite songs on the album, I Drown Nightly, is going to be made into a full music video.
Great.
I mean, that's so awesome to see that, and you got such an amazing director behind that too. That's so cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was actually such a blessing because he really came through. We had the guy that was supposed to be doing this music video fell through 11 days from the due date of the edited video. Like, the Century Media was expecting a completed video within 11 days of him canceling. So I was like, oh fuck, we are fucked. Like, I've been trying to like really just be like the golden boy at First Century Media, you know, like, you know, handle everything that they've thrown at me, you know. So that was hard for me. I thought I was going to have to go back to Century with my tail tucked between my legs. And we actually played a show with Imperial Triumphant locally. And their guitar player reached out to me and was like, hey, man, I just want to let you know that the guy who did our music videos is just a big fan of your band and just want to let you know that he'd be interested in working with you. And that was like 36 hours before our videographer canceled. So I just hit up Imperial Triumphant. I was like, what's his email? Just Hail Mary. It was like, hey, dude, we have this fucking project. And he just came back and was like, let's do it. I'm clearing my schedule. Let's fucking make it happen. So he's stoked. He's flying out to Portland. We're going to get real creepy and fucking make something really special together. I'm very excited to share with you.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see it either. I mean, considering his past work and what he's done, and of course, knowing the song, it's like I have an idea of what it could be for a music video, but I can't wait to see what it'll actually be and getting that really creepy vibe behind it.
It's gonna, I think he's brought a level of passion to this project. He's really just genuinely excited about the band, and that's such a powerful energy to bring into the collaborative process that you can't pay for someone to like your shit. You know what I mean? Like, you could have the most creative person on the planet, but if they don't vibe with what you're doing, it's pretty much immobile. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of, when you're in the early work of developing a band, a lot of it is trying to convince people of what your band is and just try to get them on the same page. So it's really a beautiful thing when you get your project to the point where it speaks for itself, and that, you know, you don't need to explain to people anymore what it is. And I really look forward to seeing the fruits of that with working with Brandon, because he seems to have a very solid unspoken idea of what the energy of this video needs to be.
Oh, totally. And, you know, bringing things back into the beginning, you know, just like the fact that it took over 6 years from writing the original riffs that showed up onto this album, it shows that timing is everything. And whether it takes a long time or, you know, it's like that Hail Mary, you know, 36 hours, you know, like just getting that opportunity to happen, you know, just that timing is everything. And when you match it perfectly, there's no better feeling.
No, there really isn't, man. I mean, that's the shit that gets people, you know, believing in things like destiny. You know, just the weird cosmic serendipity of, you know, when fucking preparedness meets opportunity. You know what I mean? It seems almost mythical when it happens, because it's so, the things that can truly happen when actual preparedness meets opportunity is, that's the genesis of all great things. Oh. And we're nothing if not fucking prepared.
Yeah, and, you know, with that, I think that's an amazing note to end on. And, you know, thank you so much for taking all this time to be able to talk to me about everything going on in Vitriol. And, of course, the brand new album, September 6th, through Century Media Records, to Bathe from the Throat of Cowardice, an amazingly honest, brutal album from start to finish that is a real album's album rather than just the collections of songs. And, you know, I think once people really get to dive into all 44 plus minutes of what's going on with this album, they're going to see a band that's only going to get bigger and better from here on out. And of course, with all these opportunities that are coming from Century Media, amazing touring with Cannibal Corpse and Hate Eternal coming up in Europe and everything that's soon to be announced, I'm so happy to see everything that's happening for you guys. And I'm honored that you even take the time to be able to talk to me about all of it.
Oh, gosh. Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. I appreciate the time and the interest. I see it as an honor that you want to talk about the album, so thank you.
Oh, absolutely, no problem. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
Oh, man. I mean, we hit it pretty hard. Yeah, I mean, just that if there's one thing to take away from this conversation is that if anyone needs a last-minute elevator pitch for this album, it's if there's one thing I think that I can, in confidence, say that this has to offer and a unique experience is just the level of devotion you'll find on the album if you explore it honestly. Like, if you really set aside whatever predispositions you might have and you just explore this album as potentially the work of someone who dedicated their life to something that much of the rest of the world sees as silly, then you'll find that. And I think that's what makes the album